Alright boys, so I'm going to do my best right now to talk about these new exotics that we saw through Sony's promotion trailer for Forsaken. Now, I'm going to mention a few things about these weapons that I see. I'm going to slow things down a bunch, depending on like what the archetype of these weapons are, what weapon type they probably are, and stuff like that. But there's only so much we can gauge from this promotional trailer. So right off the bat, guys, let's talk about the first weapon, the Two-Tailed Fox. Essentially, it fires 2 rockets at once. Now, one thing I want to take note of is there is no proximity detonation. Notice that the rocket goes past the warlock and actually hits the wall and then kills the guardian. The same with the second rocket above. It does seem to have some form of tracking though, because notice that the moment he shoots one rocket, which he is obviously aiming at the warlock, goes straight to the warlock, and then the other rocket splits to the other side. I'm not sure if he actually just aims to each one of them. There's probably something within his sights that auto locks to both of them. So there's definitely got to be some form of tracking. There's just not a proximity explosion, something like grenades and horseshoes from D1. Something to keep in mind. Doesn't mean it's not going to be nasty though. Obviously, you got the double kill, which is really great. Moving on, guys. Antaeus Wards. Guys, these are armor pieces for the Titan class. Slide to reflect projectiles. Now, as you see right here, he slides and he projects the rocket. Now, we got to ask ourselves, what else is considered projectiles? Could this work for, you know, things like arrows? I think it can. I mean, that definitely is a projectile. But, you know, weapon types, I definitely had a list of weapons in Destiny 1 that shot projectiles. So that would have actually been even weapons like Drake's Promise. That shot projectiles. And so, like, things like that, Thorn shoots projectiles. So there's a lot of weapons there that are weapons you wouldn't think shoot projectiles, but weapons that definitely would be affected by Antaeus Wards. Next up, guys, is a bow that we've already seen some gameplay of, Trinity Ghoul. Precision kills, creates electrical storm arrows. So this is definitely a weapon that I think is going to be really good in PvE. As you see, there's a bunch of ads right there that he lands the precision shot and it melts everything else around him. It almost looks like an instantaneous Zalo supercell of some sorts. But I really like it that it's just an overwhelming electrical storm versus just some, you know, kind of chain, a limited amount of damage it does. And so for it to just do that immediate storm damage to all of them is really, really nasty. Next on the list, guys, the Sixth Coyote. Double dodge. That's right, boys. Essentially with this, your hunter can now double dodge. Get in a situation where you need to close the gap. And of course, if you're rocking something like Bottom Tree, Arc Strider, you can just double dodge, get very minimum amount of damage done to you since you've got that immunity, and then close the gap. So again, they're showing the case in this with swords. Obviously, this would go really well with swords, but you know, anything really. This is a great exotic for a lot of different things, whether you're using a sword, a shoddy, a fusion, anything that can get you closer to the enemy to get that one-hit KO is something that's going to benefit from this exotic. Next on the list, guys, is Malfeasance. Man, this is something that is very interesting because we all assumed it was just going to be Thorn Return. It actually looks a little bit different than Thorn, but it definitely has that glow to it that Thorn had, but more of a taken effect, which seems to be the theme with a lot of our weapons. But the exotic perk for it is 5 hits, detonate, and explosion. So it shows it actually shooting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it does the explosion. And the explosion is a pretty big explosion. Now, something I want to definitely point out. So if we actually play this in its normal time here, it shoots similar to a 180. That's one thing. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's almost like a 180, guys, is what I'm thinking this is going to be. Now, I've actually been reviewing a lot of 180s, and 180s are actually in a good spot. But again, we've already seen that there's going to be some sandbox changes even a week before Forsaken actually drops. So I'm really not sure how 180s are going to sit once Forsaken actually drops. Moving on, guys. Black Talon. We've seen some gameplay of this already. Essentially, guys, it's a projectile sword. But you see him, he's getting some slash attacks into enemies, and then he throws the projectile. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen projectile swords. Of course, Boltcaster was another one from D1 that a lot of us used. I like to use it a bunch as well. And so, I mean, this is actually, you know, it could be good in both PvE and PvP. You know, from a PvP standpoint, I think it takes some enemies by surprise. I know it does me. You got an enemy that goes in there and melees you and gets the sword kill. and then you've got another enemy that thinks he's safe, he's backing up, and you can just throw a projectile at him. It all comes down to, you know, the projectile speed there. You know, if we play it in its regular speed there, it does already look like it's slow motion, but it looks like it moves pretty swift there. And so it's all going to depend on how quickly that projectile can actually get to you. 1,000 voices. Now this is the first I've seen of this weapon. Exploding beam of fire. So this looks like a souped up Prometheus lens. You can actually tell it kind of has the same design as our other trace rifles. It just, of course, it has a lot of different spikes on it, which looks really cool. But it has an exploding beam of fire. So as you see, he's in the air, he's shooting down. He's not really shooting at a specific enemy, he's just shooting in between them. And then I don't know if he has to actually shoot for a little bit. It looks like he has to actually have to shoot for a second or so, and then it does the explosion. And what makes this so deadly is you don't have to proc this from a headshot. This is not something like, you know, after getting a kill, it grants the explosion. It looks like it just grants the explosion just from shooting into a group of enemies. And so this can be utilized both in PvE and in PvP. It all just is dependent on how long it actually takes to grant you that exploding beam of fire. But I could definitely see it being gross in PvP. Next up, guys, we've got Chromatic Fire. This is a chest piece for the Warlock class. Elemental explosions from precision kinetic kills. Now this is pretty wild. I mean, you've got a lot of good kinetics. I got a lot of good kinetics, man. And you wonder how deadly could they actually be in something like PvE if you had that extra bit of AoE damage on enemies. And so I can really see this being utilized a lot, and just in terms of just dealing with ads and punching through strikes. And then of course, you know, put on whatever other exotic when it comes to doing DPS to bosses. But right here, just dealing with ads, yeah, it's going to be deadly. Up next, guys, we have the Wish Ender. Oh yeah, man, this looks gross. I see it on a hunter class. I'm hoping to God it's not specific to the hunter class, but you can see through walls and pierce targets. So as you see right here, guys, he's on Eternity. He sees the two enemies right here, and then they get the collapse. Obviously, the collapse is just to show that it has some form of armor piercing rounds to hit both the enemies there. And on top of that, you can see through the walls, which is already nasty. Now, it has a blink effect. Notice he's not just seeing them completely, but it comes back every, like, I don't know, half a second maybe. Regardless, even if it was, you know, even if it was a whole second to 2 seconds, that's still very damn nasty. So you can definitely line up the target, even if it's just to line them up for a second and then pull out whatever kinetic you have that's really gross. Next up, guys, is Ace of Spades. I was actually wondering how this weapon was going to return to us. Was it just going to have something like Firefly or Dragonfly on it? But essentially, guys, they're going to give it reloading after a kill grants extra damage bullets. Now, that sounds similar to something like Kill Clip, but the reason why I think this is going to be a lot better is you get extra damage bullets. So you've got a set number of bullets there that are going to be nasty versus a time frame of which you can only take advantage of Kill Clip. And so Ace of Spades, I think it's going to be pretty gross in all aspects, whether PvE or PvP. They show it here in PvE, but I really like that, guys. That's a reason why I like Sturm so much, is because you're not having to rush to get that kill, because you just have a specific bullet there with that extra bit of damage. And so that's something I think we're going to get here with Ace of Spades. Hopefully, though, we'll get a little more, though, with that. Instead of it just being the one bullet, you know, maybe we'll get 2, 3, maybe 4, you know, maybe half the magazine. So I don't know the mag size or even the archetype. When we slow things down, we're going to back things up just a little bit. Let's look real quick. So when we slow things down, we see him shoot. It almost looks like a 110. It does, right? Like, it almost looks like a 110. But I don't know if he's just pacing his shots. He could just be pacing his shots, guys. So I can't really say yet. Now, for the rest of the gameplay, it just shows some of the exotics that we just saw. But then it shows a shotgun right here. And it's got what looks to be like the Hive language on it. So a Hive themed shotgun there. Now, I will say this, whatever the shotgun is going to be, it's going to have to be nasty, because the Ikelos shotgun is super nasty in PvE, but this could be very well a PvP shotty. But whatever the case, they're going to have to make it damn good. We also see for just a second some Warlock boots gaining static charge. It almost looks like Dune Marchers, but for Warlocks. Maybe some variant of linear actuators as well there for them. We also see some gameplay of a hunter rolling and then shooting a gun in the head of this Fallen here, getting blown clean the hell off. The gun itself, though, I do have to acknowledge the fact, for some reason, the first thing I thought of when I saw it was Lingering Song. I don't know why. It just kind of has that look to me, man. It's got that. That's the Iron Banner hand cannon from year 3 of Destiny. We also see us holding the 4-barrel auto rifle again, but then we see a Titan sliding with the Antaeus boots, but it's the auto rifle. I don't know what auto rifle this is, but it looks slick as hell. Almost has like a Kvastov look, like if Kvastov had an ornament on it. You know what I mean? And then we see a picture of a Guardian looking up. Your guess is better than mine, guys. I have no idea what this exotic could be. I mean, it definitely looks sweet as hell. And then it shows some bow gameplay. Now, let's slow this bow gameplay down real quick. But it's definitely a Guardian holding a sword. Whoa. Could be like an Iron Lord of some sort. You see the way he's holding that sword there. So, yeah. And then the last but not least, guys, you see the armor right there. That's right, fellas. Prison of Elders Titan armor. I don't know if we're going to be looking at Prison of Elders coming back or not, but definitely the armor is coming back. So yeah, this is some OG armor right here, fellas. Well, guys, those are your exotics, man. Let me know in the comments below what you think, dude. Which one of these do you like the most? Which ones you excited about the most? I really don't have one that I'm really excited about. You know, the hand cannons, especially Malfeasance, really interest me. So I'm pretty excited to see what these weapons look like when we finally get our hands on it. So guys, thank you all for coming and watching this video. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.